Hey all, today's video is going to be something new I want to try. I am a day one player and have tested extensively the characters that I have. I love testing different team compositions, and I want to give some advice for players struggling to make a decision or new players who want to know who to pull on their reruns. So, here are my top 5 picks and also their future sequence investments. Number 1, this goes without saying. Shorekeeper is the closest to a must-pull as we get in Wuthering Waves. Her liberation gives a comfortable 12.5% crit rate and 25% crit damage boost. Needless to say, everyone can benefit from regardless of what their damage scales off. On top of this, her outro gives 15% damage amplification for 30 seconds. She also has a 100% crit rate for her special intro skill, giving her 4-star sub-DPS levels of damage. The icing on an already generic buffing kit, her weapon gives 14% ATK boost. She scales of HP, which makes her basically a tank that can take a hit or two. When it comes to sequences, S1 increases her comfortability. There are many instances where bosses move out of the Stellar Realm, so having this does help. The extra 10 seconds on her liberation isn't needed in 90% of cases right now, but for characters like Camellya, this can come in handy since her duration is pretty strict and long. It can also allow quick swap teams to stay doing DPs longer before she has to clock out. Her S2 gives a very nice 40% ATK boost, which is fantastic but unneeded. Still, power creep is inevitable, and having this will keep current characters more viable much longer. S3 to S6 are quality of life improvements that are very much unneeded, with S6 giving her a nice damage boost that is honestly not needed in the grand scheme of things. So, my recommendation, S2 Shorekeeper. Number 2 will be Roccia. In my earlier video, I have commented that she is not worth that upgrade over Sanwa for Camellya, which is still true at S0. But as a character alone, she provides a very nice grouping, especially with Whimpering being a mob-intense mode. There are not many grouping characters that does it as good as Roccia. Her outro buff gives a nice 20% havoc damage boost on top of Midnight Veil's 15%. The basic attack boost is nice, but niche in my opinion. When it comes to sequences, this is where Roccia shines. Her S1 is a huge quality of life improvement, making her more comfortable than I can state. But it's not as impressive as her S2, that gives a massive 40% havoc damage boost. S2 solidifies her as one of the best havoc damage boosters in the game, totaling up to 75% havoc damage boost. Since it is all element-based boost, it won't matter if the character scales of ATK, HP, or defense. Roccia will be a great sub-DPS for future Havoc characters, even if mobs can't be grouped. The damage boost alone makes her worth the investment. Her other sequences increases her personal damage, which is frankly not that big a deal, since her value is heavily weighed on her utility and Havoc damage boosting. My recommendation for Roccia is S2. Number 3, our favorite captain, Brant. Brant is a newer addition to the list and will be a while before we see his rerun. However, Brant represents a new form of sub-DPS in my books. His damage isn't main DPS levels, but substantial nonetheless. He shields, he heals, he quick swaps well and gives a nice outro buff of 20% fusion and 25% skill. Brant takes the number 3 spot. Not because he is a great buffer, but because he increases survivability by a ton on top of doing good sub-DPS damage. If you struggle without healing the damage you receive, Brant is your savior who basically gives you overhealth in the form of shields. For sequences, Brant's sequences focuses more on his personal damage, which to me is not a reason to get them. The damage it gives is not game-changing. So my recommendation for Brant is S0. Honorable mentions, this was a hard pick among all the fantastic characters available. There are no right or wrong answers here, but here are 2, which didn't make the cut for most value, but are in their own right. A very good choice. First, we have Carlotta. While Carlotta is a more single-target-focused DPS, what makes her great is her ability to do damage from range, close huge gaps when needed, and her freeze mechanics making her the go-to character to cheese challenging bosses, and can work reasonably well in quick swap. She does have some ability to do AoE damage, but nothing to write home about, which cripples her longevity in my opinion. Another benefit is her ability to use Static Mist, which gives the next Resonator 10% ATK boost at R1. While not amazing, it is still a value add if you don't have her signature. and something to boost a future character should she ever fall out of acceptable DPs. Her sequences has some incredible modifiers skyrocketing her damage potential. Her S3 gives her a massive 1,032% additional hit damage. For comparison, Fatal Finale does 644%, which gives her really good vertical investment potential. Lastly, we have Camellya. Camellya has a rather strict rotation to get the best value out of her. Still, the ability to change between single target focus and AoE focus cannot be understated. Her AoE is reasonably huge to boot. Camellya is simply a powerhouse that is subjected to power creep, but her damage modifiers are off the charts. Having not one but two nukes over 1,200% on top of her regular hits during budding rivaling Jian's Liberation mode. This coupled with characters such as Roccia at S2, this flower-sniffing baddie will be a hard character to creep. Her sequences further improves her already insane damage output. Her S2 gives a respectable increase, while her S3 gives on top of 50% to her Liberation, a massive 58% ATK boost for all her damage. What do you think of this list? Do you agree or disagree? Leave a comment below. Till next time.